opposition groups ahead of the election in December. Every month, the route sees more than $120 million of trade between the neighboring countries. Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro says that he will deploy millions of militia members to respond to threats by the US. The warning comes after Washington raised the bounty for his arrest and launched anti-drug operations in the Caribbean. Venezuelan militia is reported to have around 5 million people. Monsoon rains in Pakistan killed nearly 400 people in less than a week. Efforts are on to recover dozens of buried bodies. More than 350 people have died in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa alone. Torrential rains across Pakistan's north have triggered floods and landslides. The weather is unlikely to improve till Saturday. And Air Canada's flight attendants end their strike after they reach a tentative deal with the airline. Nearly 10,000 flight attendants went on strike last Saturday, demanding better wages and compensation for unpaid ground work. The protest affected travel for 500,000 people worldwide.
The ceasefire. Security guarantees.
Security guarantees.
Security guarantees.
Security guarantees. But this is the best I have. It's good. You look great.
The White House is no stranger to summits. It has hosted dozens of leaders over the years, and yet yesterday was special. 8 world leaders descended on Washington. Together, they huddled with Donald Trump in the White House. It was almost like a flashback, a rewind of the heydays of the transatlantic partnership. Let's look at the attendees first. Like I said, 8 leaders were at the White House. Ukraine's President Zelensky, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Finnish President Alexander Stubb, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, EU President Ursula von der Leyen, and NATO Chief Mark Rutte. These are the big players in Europe. All of them rushed to the White House on Monday. Why? To plot the next steps in Ukraine. This meeting was a follow-up to Friday. That's when Trump met Russian President Putin in Alaska. He got a feel of where the Russians stood. Now it was time to meet the other side, the Europeans. And how did it go? Well, the optics were extremely good. The White House was buzzing with diplomats and translators. Europe turned up the flattery to an 11. Trump soaked in all the attention and the cameras loved every minute of it. But beyond the symbolism, what did this summit achieve? There were 3 main highlights. Number 1, there could be a meeting between Putin and Zelensky. Says who? Donald Trump. He called up Putin after yesterday's summit, and the US says Putin is ready to meet Zelensky. Now, just to be clear, the Russians have not confirmed this. But Trump has made the announcement anyway. Listen to what he said. I called President Putin and began the arrangements for a meeting at a location to be determined between President Putin and President Zelensky. After that meeting takes place, we will have a trilateral, which would be the 2 presidents plus myself. Ukraine has long wanted this summit, but Russia has resisted. They wanted a peace deal before the meeting. As for Europe, they're thrilled about it. They feel it's a chance to put pressure on Putin, and Zelensky has welcomed the idea. He says territory issues can only be discussed between himself and Putin.
I think that the president heard me, and he saw it. We had different moments, but this is important information. That's why the matter of territories is a matter that we will leave between me and Putin.
The American president spoke with the Russian president on the phone and agreed that there will be a meeting between the Russian president and the Ukrainian president within the next 2 weeks. This meeting is to take place at a location that has yet to be agreed upon.
So we have the agenda and the timeline. Zelensky wants to discuss territories with Putin, and the timeline is around 2 weeks. If confirmed, this would be significant. Putin and Zelensky have met only once before. That was in 2019, before the war. Another meeting could result in some progress. Which brings us to highlight number 2. Trump was vague on security guarantees. Now, this has been a long-standing demand of Ukraine. They want protection against future attacks. Of course, Trump has ruled out NATO. So Kiev was hoping for some other guarantees. And remember, Europe is already on board on this one, on security guarantees. But Ukraine wants the US to join as well. Here's what Trump told Zelensky.
There'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
So Trump is putting the onus on Europe. He says Europe is the first line of defense. And America? Trump says they will be involved, which is not very encouraging for Zelensky, but he's going with the flow for the moment. Zelensky wants a clear signal of US guarantees. He says they will be decided in 10 days.
It is important that the United States is sending a clear signal that it will be among the countries helping to coordinate and will also be a participant in the security guarantees for Ukraine. I believe this is a major step forward.
I was able to go over again this afternoon on the content of these security guarantees, which consist of a robust Ukrainian army, which carries weight and can resist and deter any attempted attack, and so without limitations in numbers, capabilities, weapons, etc.
There's also talk of an arms deal, a whopping $90 billion agreement. This will involve Ukraine buying US weapons, things like warplanes and air defenses. Macron also hinted at this. He says Ukraine must be allowed to have a robust army. Chances are Russia will not allow that. They will want Ukraine to be demilitarized. There is also talk of a mutual defense commitment, a promise to defend Ukraine in the future. It's a bit like NATO's Article 5. This article, Article 5, says that if one NATO member is attacked, all of them will hit back. The idea is to give this protection to Kiev. Basically, NATO without joining NATO. The proposal came from Italy's Giorgia Meloni.
We have been invited to contribute with diplomatic proposals, and we are pleased that the starting point for security guarantees is an Italian proposal to build effective security guarantees inspired by Article 5 of the NATO-Washington Treaty. Clearly, we have to work on this.
Which brings us to the final takeaway. Differences over a ceasefire. Trump has abandoned his pursuit of a ceasefire. He wants a package peace deal, basically one deal to end the fighting and its root causes. One deal to cover all of it. But Europe is not on board. Several European leaders still want a ceasefire. They feel it is the first step to peace.
To be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire, the latest from the next meeting on. I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire.
In the 6 wars that I've settled, I haven't had a ceasefire. We just got into negotiations, and one of the wars was, as you know, in the Congo was 31 years long. Another one that we settled last week with 2 great countries was 35 years going on, and we had no ceasefire. So if we can do the ceasefire, great. And if we don't do a ceasefire, because many other points were given to us, many points were given to us, great points.
That sums up the summit. There is hope of a Putin-Zelensky meeting. There is confusion about US guarantees, and there are differences over a ceasefire. What about the other side? I'm sure Russia was watching the summit keenly. We've heard multiple reactions already. Former President Dmitry Medvedev was at it again. Listen to what he said. I'm quoting, "The anti-Russian warmongering coalition of the willing failed to outplay Trump on his turf. Europe thanked and sucked up to him." Harsh as always. But what about the official position? Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has responded. He made 2 crucial claims. Number 1, Ukraine will have to give up territory.
Territorial changes are often an essential component of conflict resolution. There are many such examples. I would like to emphasize once again that we have never talked about the need to seize any territories. Neither Crimea, nor Donbass, nor Novorossiya as territories have ever been our goal. Our goal was to protect Russian people who lived on these lands for centuries.
Как территории никогда не были нашей целью.
And number two, a Putin-Zelensky meeting is possible. Lavrov says Russia is open to any format, but he also said that arranging such a meeting will take time. And if it does happen, I'm sure the hype will be unreal. Unfortunately, hype does not create peace. You need to make concessions for that. Zelensky seems open to discussing land swaps, but on security guarantees, his position is unchanged. He wants NATO-style protection, which is, of course, a non-starter for Russia. So while the prospect of a summit is great, it is not enough. What we need is the prospect of peace. If diplomacy was a Netflix show, then the White House on Monday was its messiest season ever. Also perhaps the most binge-worthy one. You had Donald Trump back in his favorite role of ringmaster. You had Volodymyr Zelensky all suited up by the strict stylist, that is the Trump administration. And then you had the rotating cast, the band of European leaders. They were part bodyguards and part unwilling extras, trying to hold the stage together. Thankfully, no shouting match broke out this time, although that does not mean that everything went smoothly. And as always, there were viral moments. We have compiled the best ones for you. Number one, the hot mic moments. And there were quite a few of them this time. Meetings like this one are supposed to be tightly scripted. Except no one told this to Donald Trump. So he says what he wants and wherever he wants. And just ahead of the talks, Trump confided in the French president with a mic on.
I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand? As crazy as it sounds. Just sit down. Sit down, everybody.
Okay.
I think we'll let the press come in for a minute. Please.
The he is, of course, Vladimir Putin. Trump thinks that Putin wants a deal because of Trump. Now, we're not sure that's how it works, but kudos to Macron. He tries to not respond, and it still became the soundbite of the day. Of course, this was not the only oops moment. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni had a similar one when she was talking about her own press. Listen to this.
Do you guys want to take some questions or anything? You feel like it? Huh? See. Hi, Mark. All the time.
But he loves it. He loves it. For he does it always. I never want to speak with my friends.
He's a very good.
And talking about Meloni brings us to our second viral moment, the Italian Prime Minister's many expressions, especially her dramatic eye rolls. Maybe that's what happens when you're constantly surrounded by male leaders. But Meloni cannot seem to help herself, and the cameras caught her mid-summit, rolling her eyes many times as other European leaders spoke.
But now he's the NATO Secretary General, and you're doing a try that after that. And
Next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. Because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on emphasize this aspect, and would like to see a ceasefire from the next.
Take a lot of the burden. We're going to help them.
Viral moment number three, the compliment roulette. You know that uncle at every family dinner, the one who sits at the head of the table, pulls everyone close, goes around the table, and then traps you in his stories. Well, in this case, that uncle was Donald Trump.
He's too tall for me.
He's a tall guy. Good looking.
I never want him near. I prefer Volodymyr.
Well, we're building a big a ballroom. Beautiful. Right here. If you go, it would be right through that. Right through here.
Well, we saw the ballroom at London. That was.
And while he did compliment people, it wouldn't be a Trump summit without at least one name mix-up. That's our viral moment number 4. This time, the unlucky victim was the Finnish president. His name is Alexander Stubb. Trump first announced his name. Then he started scanning the room like someone calling roll in a classroom. And all the while, Stubb was right in front of him.
President Stubb of Finland, and he's somebody that, where are we here? Where?
I'm right here.
Oh, you look better than I've ever seen you look.
Viral moment number 5 was the family photo. Summits always end with a group photo. It is called the family photo. This one looked less like global unity and more like bad aesthetics. Friedrich Merz towered at 6 feet 6 inches. Giorgia Meloni was a little over 5 feet. Trump, for once, was not the tallest man in the room, and Macron and the lineup resembled a roller coaster.
That was not a great day. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Which brings us to the last one, Trump's 2028 obsession. He became president for the first time in 2017 and then again this year in 2025. And US presidents cannot be in power for more than 2 terms. So Trump cannot run again in 2028. But he really wants to. And he can't seem to let go of the temptation. So first he showed off his MAGA 2028 caps, and then he hinted at another run.
During the war, you can't have elections. So let me just say, 3.5 years from now, so you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections? Oh, that's good. I wonder what the fake
You like this idea?
Yeah.
So all in all, it was a chaotic summit, and while the dinner plates were getting cleared, Trump disappeared. Where did he go? To call Vladimir Putin. Right in the middle of the dinner, the Europeans were left a little confused. It was the diplomatic equivalent of inviting friends over for dinner and then stepping outside to talk to your ex. But that tells you all you need to know. This summit may not be remembered for the breakthroughs, but it will be remembered for the hot mics, the eye rolls, and the one call that Trump just could not wait to make. This is Diplomacy Trump style, and it's only season 1. Vantage continues after a short break.
Wang Yi, remember, is on a 2-day visit for talks with his counterpart, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, that were held yesterday. He met with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval under the Special Representatives mechanism just a short while ago. He is expected to meet Prime Minister Modi later this evening. A broad agenda that included trade, connectivity, pilgrimages and river data sharing was discussed between the 2 foreign ministers. Jaishankar reiterated concerns previously raised during his visit to China in July, stressing the importance of avoiding restricted trade measures between the 2 major Asian economies. The Chinese foreign minister also underscored that as neighboring nations and major economies, there are various facets and dimensions to ties between India and China, and called for easing of roadblocks to enhance bilateral exchanges.
There has been an upward trend. Borders have been quiet. There have been peace and tranquility. Our bilateral engagements have been more substantial. And we are most grateful to our leaders who, in Kazan, in October last, were able to set a new trend, and we have profited a lot since then. The new environment that has been created has helped us in moving ahead in the various areas that we were working on. I'm very hopeful that, like the last one, this 24th Special Representative level talks would be equally successful. Our Prime Minister will be visiting for the SCO summit shortly, and therefore I think that this SR level talks assume a very special.
The setbacks we experienced in the past few years were not in the interests of the people of our 2 countries. And then in October last year, President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi had an important meeting in Kazan. That meeting pointed the direction for the development of our bilateral relations and provided impetus for the proper settlement of the boundary question. We identified specific goals and formed a working framework. We are heartened to see the stability that is now restored in the borders. The Chinese side attaches great importance to the Prime Minister's visit to China to attend the SCO summit at our invitation. We believe that Indian side will also make your contribution to a successful summit in Tianjin. History and reality proves once again that a healthy and stable China-India relationship serves the fundamental and long-term interests of both of our countries. It is also what the developing countries all want to see. I am ready to work with you to build more consensus and identify the direction, the specific goals of the boundary consultations going forward, and create more conditions for the improvement and further growth of our bilateral relations.
Siddharth now joins us for more inputs and perspective on this. Siddharth, as far as ties between India and China are concerned, they seem to be on a mend now, especially after the Galwan clashes. But what's important is that the focus remains on the border. During the meeting with Wang Yi yesterday, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar made it clear that disengagement is done, but de-escalation is required, and that's the need of the hour.
That's right. In fact, there were 3 Ds, Poonam, which were promised at the time of Kazan summit. And these 3 Ds are disengagement, de-escalation and de-induction. Now, disengagement is almost over. As far as de-escalation and de-induction, is concerned, perhaps there is very little progress, and this has been the concern of Indian side from a very, very long time. In fact, before this also, before the special representative level talks also, India did raise the issue of slow progress as far as a de-escalation and de-induction process is concerned. Perhaps at that point in time, India was told that such issues will be dealt at special representative level talks. So now this is the 24th special representative talks which took place in New Delhi. In fact, Chinese have come up with a release also, Poonam, and this release says that to explore fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solutions in accordance with the political guiding principles agreed upon in 2005 in the spirit of mutual respect and mutual understanding. At the same time, they will strengthen regular border management and control to jointly maintain peace and tranquility in the border area. The two sides agreed to hold the 25th special representative meeting next year in China. So this is a paragraph on the border management, Poonam. Also very important to highlight, Poonam, when Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh went to China in June to attend defense ministers meet. At that point in time also, when he met his Chinese counterpart, Chinese defense minister, perhaps he spoke about the permanent solution as far as a border issue is concerned. So somewhere India is looking for a permanent solution with China as far as border issue with China is concerned. And perhaps the main focus, in fact, yesterday also during the foreign ministers meet and today at the special representative level talk, the focus of India was the border issue.
He's all dressed up today.
But this is the best I have. It's good. You look great.
You rarely get do-overs on the world stage, but yesterday President Zelensky did. You may remember his last meeting at the White House. It was a total crash and burn. Arguably the worst summit in years. Everything that could go wrong, did go wrong. Zelensky's clothes became a flashpoint, his words became a flashpoint, his alleged lack of gratitude became a flashpoint. And eventually he was kicked out. That happened in February, just a couple of weeks after Trump had taken office. 6 months later, Zelensky was back to where it all went wrong. Naturally, everyone had the same question: would he crash and burn again? Spoiler alert, he did not. Because this time Zelensky came with a strategy. For starters, he changed his look. Last time he was wearing his typical military fatigues, but this time he suited up. A black buttoned-up shirt, a pair of black trousers and a black jacket. The difference was visible right from the start.
Pretty sure.
He's all dressed up today.
The best I have. You see it.
Ready, face? Ready, step.
Inside, the trend continued. In February, Zelensky was grilled about his attire. A journalist asked him why he was not wearing a suit. This time, the same journalists reappeared. But Zelensky had the last laugh, thanks to an assist from Donald Trump.
Why don't you wear a suit?
Why?
Sorry? You're the highest level in this country's office and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see, do you own a suit?
Yeah, you have problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not
Really?
respecting
I don't
the
have
integrity of
such.
this office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something
something
like
like
this.
yours.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good on
I
you.
said the one that attacked you last time. See, now he's in.
I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit. You see, I changed. You are not.
Maybe yours is much better than mine.
The journalist apologized for his earlier remarks, but Zelensky got a parting blow. The whole wardrobe change is quite interesting. Chances are Zelensky made the switch himself. He needs Trump now more than ever. But just to be sure, the White House sent a message. They told Zelensky to wear a suit to this meeting. And clearly it helped. Now we come to the talks. Last time Zelensky dived right into the main issues. He spoke about security guarantees and ceasefire talks. This time, he started off with some charm. He presented a letter written by his wife, not to Trump, but to First Lady Melania.
I hope that this first document, will be first step to real security guarantees for Ukraine, our people, our children. I really count on it. And using this opportunity, many thanks to your wife, First Lady of the United States. She sent a letter to Putin about our children, adopted children, and my wife, First Lady of Ukraine, she gave the letter. It's not to you, to your wife.
I must say that was smooth. Clearly, Zelensky had done his homework. And he did not stop there. Last time, a major flashpoint was gratitude. Vice President J.D. Vance had jumped into the conversation. He asked how many times Zelensky had said thanks. Well, this time, that's all Zelensky said.
No, have you said thank you once?
A lot of times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank you?
Even today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. If I can, first of all, thank you for invitation and thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you.
Some credit also goes to J.D. Vance. Last time he was like a man possessed. The US Vice President launched an all-out attack on Zelensky, but this time he was silent. Trump also deserves some credit. He was a lot calmer than in February. Back then, he openly scolded Ukraine. He told Zelensky that he did not have the cards. He was asked the same question again yesterday, and the US president gave a totally different response.
From the very beginning of the war,
You're not
Mr.
in a good
President,
position. You don't have the
the
cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing
But
cards.
right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're gambling
I'm the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
As you listen to Russia and Ukraine, which side has the better cards? Right
Well, I don't want to say that. I'm just here to be. Look, this isn't my war. This is Joe Biden's war. He's the one that had a lot to do with this happening, and we want to get it ended.
This is what homework does. Zelensky was totally unprepared last time. He was used to dealing with Joe Biden, a president who totally indulged Ukraine. But Donald Trump was always going to be different. 6 months later, Zelensky has realized that. Also, this is Ukraine's reality. The fact is, Zelensky needs Trump more than Trump needs Zelensky, which means that he will have to indulge Trump. And why just Zelensky? Even Europe is on the same boat. We saw ample evidence of that today. They could not stop praising Donald Trump.
Yes, I will be very brief. I really want to thank you, President of the United States, dear Donald, for the fact that you, as I said before, broke the deadlock.
The path is open. You opened it last Friday.
Something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you, thanks also to the stalling in the battlefield.
So you can count on us as we can count on you in order to deliver this robust peace for both Ukraine and Europe.
So much for European strategic autonomy. They took turns praising Trump. It tells you how desperate Brussels is. It also tells you how much leverage Trump has. US support is the only thing keeping Ukraine afloat. If Trump pulls that, it's game over. This summit was a brutal reminder of that. Even as Ukraine's president met Donald Trump at the White House, the strikes on Ukraine continued. Yesterday, Russia launched fresh attacks. It struck deep inside Ukrainian territory. The latest target was Poltava. It is home to an important oil refinery. It supplies fuel to the country's military. Moscow says attacking the site was fair game since it's supplying to the military. And the attack came just hours after Trump's meeting with European leaders. Also, since the summit in Alaska, Russian strikes have only intensified and Ukraine has responded in kind. It is targeting Russian supply lines. So as the leaders discuss a potential peace deal, the fighting is getting worse. Here's a report.
This is what Kremenchuk looked like after Russia conducted a missile and drone attack. Kremenchuk is an industrial center. It is located in central Ukraine. It is part of the Poltava region. The strike came yesterday as Ukraine's president met with Donald Trump along with leaders from Europe. The meeting took place at the White House. Hours after it ended, Russia struck Poltava. Ukraine's energy ministry confirmed the attack. It happened overnight. Russian drones targeted energy facilities in the Poltava region. The Poltava region is strategic. It houses Ukraine's only oil refinery. It has been attacked before with drones and missiles. This latest strike targeted that same site. Russia's Interfax news agency confirmed it. They say it was a planned strike on the oil refinery in Kremenchuk. According to Russia, the refinery was supplying fuel for the Ukrainian military. That's the reason they gave for the attack. They say this makes the site a military target. Since Trump met Putin in Alaska, Russian strikes have intensified. At least 21 civilians have been killed. Another 99 have been injured. These numbers are from Ukrainian regional authorities. The attacks began after August 16th, the day of the Alaska summit. There have been several calls for a ceasefire, but Moscow is rejecting them. Russia says there can't be a ceasefire without a final deal, and now Trump appears to agree with the Russians. This means the strikes continue unabated. Today, Ukraine's Air Force reported new attacks. Overnight, Russia launched 270 Shahed drones, along with 5 Iskander-M ballistic missiles and 5 Kh-101 cruise missiles. Ukrainian air defenses intercepted most of them. 230 drones were shot down. So were 6 missiles, but 4 missiles got through, along with 40 drones. They struck 3 locations inside Ukraine. Ukraine has responded with strikes of its own. Long-range drones were deployed. 2 Russian ammunition depots were hit. Ukraine's security service, the SBU, confirmed the strike. The target was the Russian village of Bilokodakino. It sits on a key railway line used by the Russian forces. It is used to supply the front lines. This isn't new. Ukraine has conducted such attacks before repeatedly. It has been targeting Russian logistics hubs inside occupied Ukrainian territory, as well as targets deep inside Russia. This is to disrupt supply chains and weaken frontline capacity. There may be talk of a peace deal, but on the front lines, the fighting is still very much on, and that will be the case until there's a deal.
Vantage continues after a short break.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
वडाला में बिटवीन चेंबूर एंड भक्ति पार्क जो 150 लोग जो फंसे हैं इस ट्रेन के अंदर, आपके पास क्या है लेटेस्ट जानकारी, लेटेस्ट अपडेट क्या है आपके पास?
इसके बारे में मैं लगातार MMRD और BMC के कमिश्नर के साथ संपर्क में हूँ। यहाँ पर ज्यादा बारिश होने की वजह से हार्बर लाइन जो है बंद होने की वजह से मोनोरेल में ओवर क्राउड हो गई। मोनोरेल में ज्यादा लोग पैसेंजर गए और इसकी वजह से जो उसका इलेक्ट्रिक करंट है वो डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया और मोनोरेल वो टिल्ट हो गई और इसकी वजह से ये बंद पड़ी। और इमरजेंसी जो ब्रेकडाउन जो है ये गाड़ी हुई है और इसीलिए यहाँ पर अभी कई 110 से ज़्यादा लोगों को रेस्क्यू किया है। खुद वहाँ पर म्युनिसिपल जॉइंट कमिश्नर है, दूसरे एडिशनल म्युनिसिपल कमिश्नर वहाँ पर है, कमिश्नर मेरे साथ में संपर्क में है और पूरी तरह रेस्क्यू को हम लोग प्रायोरिटी दे रहे हैं वहाँ से लोगों को बाहर निकालने की।
अभी तक कितने लोग रेस्क्यू किए गए हैं और कितने बचे हैं और कितना टाइम और चलेगा ये रेस्क्यू का ऑपरेशन जो है?
ज्यादा लोगों को रेस्क्यू किया है और 200 लगभग और लोग हो सकते हैं उसमें। तो ये एक्चुअली ये हुआ है इसलिए कि थोड़ा बारिश ज्यादा होने की वजह से मैंने कहा कि हार्बर लाइन जो बंद होने की वजह से इधर मोनोरेल की तरफ लोग डाइवर्ट हो गए और इसकी कैपेसिटी जो है मेट्रो से बहुत कम होती है, 50% पे होती है।
ये बताइए, ये जो पावर जो बिजली गई थी जिसकी वजह से ट्रेन रुक गई, इसके ऊपर कुछ जांच हुई है कि बिजली कैसे गई और इसको बैकअप क्यों नहीं दे पा रहे थे? बिजली जो बैकअप जनरली होती है, पावर बैकअप, वो किस वजह से? हाँ,
तो इंक्वायरी वाली बात है ये वो तो उसकी इंक्वायरी हो जाएगी, सब कुछ हो जाएगा, लेकिन पहले तो अभी इनको बाहर निकालने के लिए हम लोग प्रायोरिटी दे रहे हैं। ये बंद क्यों हो गई, उसका कारण क्या है, वो सब जांच हो जाएगी और दोबारा ऐसी दुर्घटना ना हो इसके लिए भी पूरी तरह खबरदारी ली जाएगी, प्रिकॉशंस लिए जाएंगे। लेकिन अभी इनको तुरंत बाहर निकालना और उनको मेडिकल फैसिलिटी देना, उनको घर तक सुरक्षित पहुंचाना, इसके ऊपर हम लोग प्राधान्य दे रहे हैं, प्रायोरिटी दे रहे हैं।
एक पैसेंजर जो बाहर निकाला गया था उसने ये भी कहा था कि कुछ पैसेंजर्स जो एक कंपार्टमैंट में थे उनको वहां का जो शीशा था, जो विंडो था, उसको ब्रेक करना था
उन्होंने। वो मैं खुद एक पैसेंजर है प्रवीण नाम का, उससे खुद बात की और वो बहुत डरे हुए थे। मैंने कहा, वो अंदर था पैसेंजर, उससे भी मैंने बात की तो उनको मैंने कहा कि भाई डरो मत, अभी पूरी यंत्रणा जो है आपको बाहर निकालने के लिए आई है और वो निकालेगी, टेंशन मत लो। लेकिन ये जो विंडो तोड़ी है बात सही है, वो वेंटिलेशन के लिए जरूरी भी था, तो इसमें अभी आगे ऐसी दुर्घटना ना हो इसके लिए तो सब उपाय होंगे। लेकिन अभी पहले क्या है, पहले तो इनको बाहर निकालना सुरक्षित, इसको हम प्राधान्य।
Eknath Shinde, thank you very much. Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra saying that there are 150 people on board this train. He says about 100 in his estimate have been rescued and about 50-60 odd more need to be rescued. Sri Krishna is a reporter with our sister channel Lokmat who's joining us. Sri Krishna, ये बताइए कि अभी तक कितना complete हुआ है रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन, कितने लोग बाहर आ चुके हैं और कितने और बचे हैं जो अंदर हैं अभी भी फंसे हैं?
अभी तक तो देखा जाए तो फिलहाल जो है मुंबई पुलिस और जो मुंबई पुलिस देखा जाए तो और एनडीआरएफ की टीम जो है, फायर ब्रिगेड है, जो निकालने का रेस्क्यू का काम अभी भी जारी है। और अपने साथ वही मोनोरेल में जो ट्रैवल कर रहे थे वही प्रवासी है, उनके साथ ही बातचीत करते। क्या कहोगे, तुम कहाँ से कहाँ ट्रैवल कर रहे थे और तुम्हें कब जानकारी मिली कि तुम?
Wongi, remember, is on a two-day visit for talks with his counterpart, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, that were held yesterday. He met with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval under the Special Representatives mechanism just a short while ago. He is expected to meet Prime Minister Modi later this evening. A broad agenda that included trade, connectivity, pilgrimages and river data sharing was discussed between the two foreign ministers. Jaishankar reiterated concerns previously raised during his visit to China in July, stressing the importance of avoiding restricted trade measures between the two major Asian economies. The Chinese foreign minister also underscored that as neighboring nations and major economies, there are various facets and dimensions to ties between India and China, and called for easing of roadblocks to enhance bilateral exchanges.
There has been an upward trend. Borders have been quiet. There have been peace and tranquility. Our bilateral engagements have been more substantial. And we are most grateful to our leaders who, in Kazan, in October last, were able to set a new trend, and we have profited a lot since then. The new environment that has been created has helped us in moving ahead in the various areas that we were working on. I'm very hopeful that, like the last one, this 24th Special Representative level talks would be equally successful. Our Prime Minister will be visiting for the SCO summit shortly, and therefore I think that this SR level talks assume a very special.
The setbacks we experienced in the past few years were not in the interests of the people of our two countries. And then in October last year, President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi had an important meeting in Kazan. That meeting pointed the direction for the development of our bilateral relations and provided impetus for the proper settlement of the boundary question. We identified specific goals and formed a working framework. We are heartened to see the stability that is now restored in the borders. The Chinese side attaches great importance to the Prime Minister's visit to China to attend the SCO summit at our invitation. We believe that the Indian side will also make your contribution to a successful summit in Tianjin. History and reality proves once again that a healthy and stable China-India relationship serves the fundamental and long-term interests of both of our countries. It is also what the developing countries all want to see. I am ready to work with you to build more consensus and identify the direction, the specific goals of the next of the boundary consultations going forward, and create more conditions for the improvement and further growth of our bilateral relations.
Siddhant now joins us for more inputs and perspective on this. Siddhant, as far as ties between India and China are concerned,
New Delhi is hosting a key visitor this week, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. It's his first visit in 3 years, and it couldn't be more significant. A reset is underway between India and China, and Wang Yi's mission is to repair ties. So far, the diplomacy is matching the expectations. Wang Yi has held a wide range of meetings in India. A few hours back, he met Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Before Prime Minister Modi, Wang Yi met External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Progress has been made on several fronts. Let's tell you about them one by one, starting with the border talks. The border conflict has been the biggest source of tensions. But for about a year now, the India-China border has been peaceful. Today, both sides reviewed the progress and some positive signals have emerged. This was in the meeting between Ajit Doval and Wang Yi. Both leaders are special representatives for border talks. Doval said the border has remained quiet. That's the word he used. And that ties between India and China are improving. He called it an upward trend.
I had a wonderful meeting in the last round in Beijing, and I'm very happy that since then, in the last about 9 months, there has been an upward trend. Borders have been quiet. There have been peace and tranquility. Our bilateral engagements have been more substantial. And we are most grateful to our leaders who, in Kazan, in October last, were able to set a new trend. And we have profited a lot since then. The new environment that has been created has helped us in moving ahead in the various areas that we were working on.
Doval also praised Wang Yi for what he called his personal efforts towards improving the relationship. And in response, Wang Yi struck a similar tone. He said that stability is returning to the border. The recent setbacks were not in their interests, and both sides have, and I'm quoting, identified goals. They've agreed on a quote-unquote working framework. This is to better manage the border situation. This is the most significant issue of this relationship, by the way. 5 years back, bilateral ties broke down, and the reason was the deadly clash in Galwan. After a provocation from the Chinese side, troops clashed on the border. There were casualties on both sides. The violence triggered a full-scale standoff. The entire border was militarized. Thousands of troops were deployed on either side, and tensions remained high for months. In fact, this continued until October last year. That's when India and China struck a deal, October 2024. They agreed to withdraw troops from flashpoints. And while the larger border issue still remains unresolved, today's statement inspires confidence because both sides are taking steps towards normalcy. And that's a welcome move. Similarly, there's progress on the trade front. There are reports of a major breakthrough. China has lifted curbs on 3 key exports to India: fertilizers, rare earth minerals and magnets, and tunnel boring machines. New Delhi had made these requests last month when Jaishankar met Wang Yi in Beijing. The Indian External Affairs Minister had travelled to China last month, and now, on his return visit to India, Wang Yi has assured Jaishankar that China is responding to India's request. Reports say the shipments have already begun. Again, this is an important signal that both sides are willing to move forward. Wang Yi is making all the right noises. He said, and I'm quoting, China and India should establish correct strategic understanding, regard each other as partners and opportunities, not as rivals or threats. Prime Minister Modi's upcoming visit also came up for a discussion. Later this month, the Indian Prime Minister will be in China. He will attend the SCO summit in Tianjin in China. SCO is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. China has a rotating presidency, so it will host the summit this year. Prime Minister Modi is traveling for the same. And China says it is looking forward to it. In fact, Wang Yi said that Beijing expects India to contribute to a successful summit. So there's a lot of convergence. At the same time, as we've been saying, there are clear fault lines between India and China. And one of them is Taiwan. Taiwan came up during talks between Jaishankar and Wang Yi, and now it has turned into a point of friction because the Chinese side has misrepresented facts. They claim Jaishankar called Taiwan a part of China, and they have published this quote and they're playing it up. Why is this a problem? Because Taiwan is contested. Beijing says Taiwan is a part of China, like a breakaway province, and they vow to take it back by force if necessary. Taiwan, on the other side, calls itself an independent democracy. And now Chinese mouthpieces are quoting Jaishankar as saying that Taiwan is a part of China. They're playing it up as Indian endorsement of the Chinese position. But that's not what happened. A short while back, India's External Affairs Ministry issued a statement. It confirmed that there was no such affirmation from the Indian side and that India's position on Taiwan remains unchanged. Now, officially, India does not recognize Taiwan as independent, but this position is a bit nuanced. Just like China and most of the world, India maintains ties with Taiwan, especially in areas like trade, technology and culture. We have a relationship, and New Delhi plans to continue that relationship. In fact, when Wang Yi asked India to cut ties with Taiwan, Jaishankar's response was clear. China itself engages with Taiwan in all these areas. How can it ask India to cut ties? Jaishankar also raised another issue: China's plans to build a mega dam on the Brahmaputra River. The Indian minister sought transparency from Beijing about this project. And in the same spirit, India has maintained that differences should not become disputes.
Having seen a difficult period in our relationship, Excellency, our two nations now seek to move ahead. This requires a candid and constructive approach from both sides. In that endeavor, we must be guided by the three mutuals: mutual respect, mutual sensitivity, and mutual interest. Differences must not become disputes, nor competition, conflict.
This friction should not be surprising. It should keep India on its guard while dealing with China. At the same time, it should not be allowed to derail the momentum, because the India-China reset is being shaped by a wider geopolitical context. One big factor is Donald Trump's economic policy, his tariffs, his trade war. They've pushed the two Asian giants together. So this reset is driven by mutual interest. It is driven by economics and by strategic calculation. Expect both sides to build on it when Prime Minister Modi visits China later this month.
Hello and welcome to the late night edition with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. Big breaking news coming in at the top of the bulletin, where after Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met Prime Minister Modi, the MEA has now released a statement. Prime Minister Modi has thanked the Chinese President Xi Jinping for the invitation to the SCO summit.